Welcome and good evening. It's This Is Going Well, I Think, with David Cooper, and I am David Cooper. It's This Is Going Well, I Think, the show where no one's listening, no one cares, the show where every episode's the last episode. It's my birthday tomorrow, and I didn't organize anything. I wanted to have a big lamb roast where I bought a leg and fed 8 friends, but I'm a big believer of the Keystone guest at any party. Your Keystone guest is the killer guest that sticks everybody together like glue and makes sure that you're having a good time. And I invited one particular friend to my birthday. She couldn't make it on the day that I wanted to do, and then I let it all fall apart, which is what happened to me on my 30th birthday. One of my closest friends couldn't make it, and I just got really depressed, and I couldn't really see organizing a guest list together. So I just did nothing. I enjoyed the day alone, wallowing in my own self-pity, which is actually a very enjoyable hobby for me as a Jew. But after my 30th, something amazing happened. I put so much pressure on myself to throw a good party that when I didn't, it was a great disappointment. And when 31 rolled around, I just didn't give a care. I put together a birthday, I rented out some back room in a restaurant, and I assembled a bunch of friends, and I had a dinner. And it was fantastic. It was so much fun. It was the 30th birthday that I wanted to have, but no pressure. So I'm going to do that again this year. I'm going to do a lamb roast in, 2 or 3 weeks, and that'll be that. But I guess I say all this to just, wish myself my own happy birthday on my Medium, and maybe share a lesson about not being too hard on yourselves for having a crappy birthday. But also to tell you that there will be no show tomorrow. So happy birthday to me, and happy birthday to you. We got a great lineup for you tonight, including a big get. One of my favorite musicians is going to be my first guest of the night. That's coming up in about 10 minutes. This guy writes really, really funny and really, really good music that's AI assisted. He's gone viral, and his top hit right now is called, and by the way, I got to give a disclaimer to any sensitive listeners or children. His top hit right now is called I Glued My Balls to My Butthole Again. The man goes by the record label Obscurest Vinyl. After that, we will talk to a toy influencer. That's right, adult toys. Toys for children bought by adults. And he's going to tell us how grown-ups have surpassed preschoolers as the biggest consumer of toys right now. After that, Tony 5 checks in with us, our foreign correspondent, this time from Bulgaria. We'll get the Bulgarian update from Tony. Then, kind of a chilling piece of news out of the airline industry. A Boeing 737 MAX, of course it's a Boeing, did a scary maneuver called a Dutch roll during an emergency. Pilot John Tory Jr. is going to walk us through that story and a few more. And finally, it's National Day of Joy on June 26th. We'll talk about that and why most Americans say their parent is their best friend with a gerontologist. Gerontologist. That is our show. It's going to be a great one. We'll talk to Obscurest Vinyl about his wickedly funny AI tracks in less than 10 minutes. But first, this. This one may scare you to death or scare you alive, but here's what happened. A 74-year-old woman from Lincoln, Nebraska was pronounced dead at a nursing home. Sad, I know. Her body was sent to the local funeral home, that funeral parlor called Bethurius, Mazer, and Love. With a name like that, who wouldn't want to spend eternity there? Anyway, about 2 hours later, an employee noticed something a little strange. The woman was breathing. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an EMT, but you'd think checking for breath would be just one step in confirming death, right? Maybe the most important one. Anyway, after some CPR and a trip to the hospital, the woman did live for a few more hours after being pronounced dead, until she died and was pronounced dead again. Apparently, once not enough for this person, but a police chief deputy says this was a unique case. It's not unique if it happens more than once, but I guess if it's the same person who that's happening to, it is unique. Never mind. Unfortunately, mistaken death isn't as rare as you would hope. Just last June, the same thing happened to a 76-year-old woman in Ecuador who was found alive, get this, not in a body bag, but in her coffin. You'd think funeral homes might want to start investing in some, still alive detectors? But I think the deeper question here is, when do we truly die? A doctor interviewed for this story was quoted as saying death isn't a binary state, but a gray area. So, kind of like my romantic life, full of confusion with no clear signs. But throughout history, people have gone to extreme lengths to confirm death. The Greeks would slice off fingers. The Romans would use hot water. And the ancient Slavs would, I don't know if I'm reading this correctly, yell at the body for 3 days. It's a bit like trying to wake up a teenager for school, but a bit more morbid. In the 19th century, there was an amazing product out of Germany called, quote, safety coffins. And they had long breathing tubes and bells that you could ring or breathe through in the coffin after you were buried. Now that, my friends, is ringing in the afterlife. But the truth is, according to scientists, the only surefire sign of death is putrefaction. Sounds putrefying. No, seriously, that's decaying or rotting of a body. But who wants to wait that long? Little history lesson, the way we declare death today stems from a 1980 task force led by President Jimmy Carter. These death nerds decided that death occurs with the irreversible cessation of circulatory, respiratory, or other brain functions. Most U.S. states then adopted this, and brain death became the go-to definition. So next time you think you're having a bad day, just remember, it could be worse. At least you weren't pronounced dead twice. Here's a feel-good story about a Canadian criminal who, well, wasn't as much of a criminal as the cops thought he was. This one's mixed up, this one's hilarious. A man in Sarnia, Ontario was in a courtroom recently, and instead of tears of sorrow, he shed tears of joy. Now, you might think this is because he finally got Netflix in prison, but no, it's even better than that. Here is the scoop. The man was in deep trouble, facing a bunch of charges after being nabbed by the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police. The worst of these charges was possessing cocaine for the purposes of trafficking. But it turns out, wait for it, it wasn't cocaine. It was baking soda, baking powder. Yes, the same stuff that sits in the back of your pantry. But seriously, you should bring it to the front of your pantry because baking is a fucking joy. But back to the story, can you imagine the cops' faces? Did the perp say something like this? "I'm sorry, officer, that's just from my secret pancake recipe." While the man's drug charges were being tried in court, there was a drama that peaked when the prosecutor interrupted the proceedings with breaking news. The man arrested's lawyer must have felt like he was getting a get-out-of-jail-free card in Monopoly. That's a callback to a story I did last week with Mr. Monopoly. Not important and not relevant. Let's move on. But anyway, our perp, the not-so-master chef, had been looking at some really serious jail time when the prosecutor abruptly announced that test results were in and the cocaine was in fact baking soda. And just like that, the big bad drug charge has vanished like a souffle in the oven that was too hot. But don't get too excited for this guy because he's not out of the woods yet. He's still facing a bunch of other charges like break and enter and possessing stolen property. Honestly, he's got a laundry list of charges. And maybe you should consider a career in escape rooms because he's already got the breaking in part down. The man's lawyer said his client was super relieved, which is understandable. I think for a class of criminals, they'd be excited if it turned out their baking soda was cocaine. But in this case, I think the guy's glad that his cocaine turned out to be baking soda. Although, imagine you're making cookies and then suddenly it's the wildest party ever. The man's past isn't exactly squeaky clean, though. He's been in and out of trouble with a criminal highlight reel that includes, get this, posting stolen goods on Instagram. Seriously, if you're going to steal, maybe don't share it on social media. Is that the criminal's version of humble brag? So while at this time the man continues to bake in jail, get it, bake? Bake? Because of baking soda? We are left wondering, was it all a big misunderstanding? Or is he really, just really bad at grocery shopping? Regardless, this truly was a kitchen caper in the courtroom. Okay, on to an interview I'm super excited about. Obscurest Vinyl. That is the record label of the man we're going to have on. The songs are amazing. They're AI assisted in their writing, not AI written completely. And they are hilarious and weird and quirky. And he gave me permission to play them on the show, so I'm excited to do that. But I got to give you a little bit of a warning. Sensitive listeners or kids, while we've gotten rid of the profanity, there is explicit sexual references in these songs, and we talk about them. Goes without saying, but listener discretion advised. So I'm very excited that that's up next. And we are back. I am so excited. I am thrilled to have the founder of Obscurest Vinyl. It's probably the greatest record label you've never heard of. He's a jewelry designer by day. We will get into what this record label does, but I got to say, it's a blend of design, music, humor, artificial intelligence, and it's among the best thing I've heard all year, all life.
Wow.
I don't even know what to say. I've interviewed famous people before, but never have I been as nervous and as excited as I am now to be here with Glenn Robinson.
Thank you for having me. You do not need to be nervous.
My God.
What's up?
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on glue. This is an old proverb that people talk about when it comes to gluing your testicles to your rectum. This is what my mother always said.
Yeah, it's on the back of every can of glue, from the 60s. If you look on the bottom, there's a warning label just kind of letting you know to not, glue your balls to your asshole,
Okay, let's take a step back. Obscurest Vinyl. What is it for those who don't know? What are you doing? What is Obscurest Vinyl? What are these tracks? What is the music? How is it made? I've got about 1,000 other questions, but I just laid about 5 on you.
Nice. All right. Yeah. So I started this Instagram account in 2017 making mock, ridiculous album covers because I am a musician and I am a graphic designer and I love stupid humor. So this was like a marriage of all of those things. I use found photos, old advertisements, catalog pages, all that stuff. And I just assigned them a stupid name and a ridiculous title. And that's been kind of the format up until March of this year when I started adding the actual music into it. So yeah, ever since I added the music, it's gone to a whole different level of ridiculousness.
It's taken off. I mean, the album covers are amazing. They look like they're something you would have seen in the 60s, like a Motown record, except you see the header and it's like, I glued my balls to my butthole again.
Yeah.
They are funny, they are genius, they are creative in their own right. But when you started composing this music, I think is when people really started taking notice. That's how I found you. And I was in awe when a friend sent me your track. Tell me about the music, because there's this eerie quality to it where you're just listening to it and like, is this real? It's in this uncanny valley of like an amazing Motown track that you might have heard, or an amazing country music track, R&B track, whatever it is, oldies mostly, and then just like totally seems like it's a bot or totally seems like it's fake at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny too because, I never intended to use AI for any of this. It's been AI free up until the music, and it was just kind of a tool to use, to finish the joke. I was in a unique spot where I was sitting on thousands of fake album covers I had made. I'm like, why wouldn't I use this to bring some of these to life? But when I first started making the music, I was cracking up because, like you said, there is this uncanny valley kind of it's uncomfortable sometimes because the performance and the delivery is so sincere. It doesn't understand context. So it's delivering the stupidest things you've ever heard in your life in a very serious and sincere tone. And that's what always makes me laugh.
And with the lyrics, there's a certain quality to it that's almost too perfect. It's exactly on key. It's exactly on beat. It doesn't have that warmth and mistakes that people make, those little microscopic mistakes that actually make music great. So it's a little too perfect and then a little too, I don't know, not at the same time. And it fits in this weird space in between real music and fake music. And it does it in such a funny way. But the lyrics, you didn't use AI to generate the lyrics. You use AI.
No.
What components are computer generated?
It's really just the music. I come up with the lyrics and then I look at the album cover and I just try to imagine what that album would sound like, and I try to make it cohesive and somewhat believable as you can get it. And I think I just try to make them as catchy as possible too, because I am a songwriter too, and I love writing catchy music. I love writing songs, and I write the lyrics as if I were writing a normal song. Get your verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, whatever. So I try to write the lyrics to lend themselves to be generated into a catchy melody, if that makes sense.
It does. And so you just try over and over, training the thing and getting it closer and closer to what you wanted. And then when you get the final product, you're like, yes, this is it. Let's talk about the lyrics. Let's talk about the song I'm obsessed with. I know you've got others. I know you're not a one-trick pony, but I glued my balls to my butthole again.
That's the best one.
It's amazing. I'm going to play about a 20, 30-second clip of it right now for people to hear.
Nice.
I got my balls to my butthole, yeah. Oh my God, what did I do? I can't take a dump, 'cause now my balls are blocking up my butthole. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Good God, I pulled too hard, now my scrotum's stretched out like a f***ing yard. Oh God.
What to me is so amazing about this song is not that the man's gluing his balls to his butthole.
No.
It's that he's done it again. Like, it's the kind of thing in life where if you do it, you know not to do it. But really, sometimes you have to experience your own mistakes.
It's like, how does it even happen once? You know, that's the joke of it.
For me, that I understand. You know, we as humans, like, why would I skydive? Why would I wrestle an alligator? Why anything dangerous? You're a thrill seeker. You want to do something stupid because you can, and no one can stop you. That's how it happens once.
Exactly.
What kind of person do you have to be to do it so many times where you do it and everyone's like, oh, he's done it again?
He's done it again. Yeah. I mean, you got to be like a real glutton for punishment. And I think that's what that whole band is. All of their songs, the Sticky Sweethearts, you know, they're the band, the Motown band, that are constantly mutilating their body in hopes of winning a woman over. That seems to be the recurring theme. I had just done a new one where kind of like the same thing, where the song is called "The First Time I Saw Your Dad Nude."
Mm-hmm.
And you know, people of course are leaving like comments like, "Oh, what was the first time?" I mean, well, that implies that there's been others. And yeah, I like to leave that open for interpretation.
I love it. I love it. Where did you get the inspiration for the glue thing?
Dude, you know, I honestly, it doesn't mean anything. Most of my titles are just a string of words that sound funny together. But that one was a totally different album cover from like 2018, I think. It was like a totally different picture of like just a random guy I found online. And he had a look of like, oh, something bad just happened. And I just came up with that. I was like, it just came out of my head, and I was like, there you go. And then I tried to recreate that song with the original cover, which was like an 80s synthy kind of, you know, more down that lane. And it just wasn't coming out very good. And then I was like, you know, let me just try a Motown feel.
Yeah.
And then it was like perfect. So I changed the album cover and, you know, made it fit with the song, and now it's out there forever.
Your lyrics they're very inspired. You are a brilliant comedy writer.
Oh, thank you.
I looked at the track Rubbin and a Tuggin My Nips. It's this guy who just wants to keep touching his nipples until they bleed. The doctor tells him you need to stop.
Yep.
Or you can kiss them goodbye, to which the man who's rubbing and tugging his nips says, you can eat a cock.
Yep.
And tell your wife I'm coming by. Like, how did you, that is comedic genius. Like, the doctor says, you have to do this or else your health is gonna not be in a great shape. And the guy's like, tell your wife I'm coming by. Like, that, how did you think of that call and response?
I try to just think of like, I don't know, because a lot of like the things that I find funny are like the way I'm from Rhode Island. In New England, a lot of people just talk with a ridiculous tone. It's very abrasive. It's very like it's just angry for no reason sometimes, and that's always been hilarious to me. So I think I'm always thinking of that person who's just losing their shit about something they don't need to lose their shit about. And yeah, I don't know why. It all kind of just came out that way. And funny story about that picture. That's a guy who's getting shot.
Oh no. That's Rubbin and Tuggin My Nips, the album cover. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, he's really like holding his chest because he got shot. He didn't really get shot. It was like the cover of like a old mystery magazine or whatever.
When we come back, I want to talk more deeply about what your influences are,
Sure.
like how you've interacted with fans, what it's been like since these songs have been taking off, audience reactions, family reactions. Is there something deeper going on? Is there a cultural commentary? And then probably most important, like who are your contemporaries? Who are your inspirations? These are all the things we're going to discuss when we get back. We're here with Glenn Robinson, founder of Obscurest Vinyl. And I'm going to play that line from Rubbin and a Tuggin My Nips on the out here because it's just so funny to me.
I've been tugging these nips and I'm rubbing them again. See you in hell, I don't give a I'm just a rubbing and a tugging my fucking nips. Oh golly, ooh, my fucking nips are bleeding. See you in hell, I don't give a I'm just a rubbing and a tugging my fucking nips. The doctor said you need to stop, or you can kiss those nips goodbye. I said, hey doc, you can eat a cock. I tell your wife I'm coming by.
We're here with founder of Obscurest Vinyl. These are the greatest records you've never heard. Oldies done with AI, with hilarious lyrics, with really well-designed album covers, songs that you think might have existed when you first started hearing them, and then the lyrics drop on you like an atomic bomb. Glenn Robinson is the man I'm with. Glenn, welcome back. Thanks for talking to me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, inspiration. I loved Weird Al growing up. Like, are there any artists who do kind of parodies or do silly stuff that you look to when you think of like, okay, I would love to be like that, or I'm drawing inspiration from that?
I mean, I love Weird Al too. I wasn't really thinking of him. If anybody, I was thinking of like the Jerky Boys, or something. You know, like their language was just very like abrasive. You know, and like they were just constantly like there was just a tone where like anything they said was funny, and that's if I had to pinpoint anything, it would probably be something in that world, almost like a prank call. From like the 90s or something.
So the genres of these tracks, they're varied. Typically oldies is what I've heard.
Yep.
Where are the influences there? Or do you just throw whatever at the AI and whatever the AI gives you back, that's your genre?
No, it's all specific. Well, because it all ties back to how I designed the album covers, which is usually like vintage, like retro is kind of my go-to. So I just try to make the song sound like they would come from that album. And, and I'm a songwriter myself, so it's almost like I'm trying to write the songs that I actually can't write by myself. Because if it were up to me and I had all the resources around me, I would be like, I would love to write a song that sounds like I glued my balls, but with like normal lyrics, But it's almost like I'm tapping into a side of songwriting that I wish I could do. Because normally I'm writing like, punk rock music. And you can only go so far with that. But yeah, it all ties back to like the vintage aesthetic and that sound and like the innocence of it, but with just totally nonsensical lyrics.
I see deeper elements here. I see questions like, is it art? Authenticity in design?
Yeah.
Like, is that there? I actually think yes. But then there's also like, okay, there's maybe a cultural commentary here that AI can make these silly tracks and I'm making fun of that. But also your art making in the process. I think it's all mixed up and all tied and twisted together there.
Yeah, and a lot of people look at it different ways. And like, I understand, I get messages, not very often, but sometimes where people are like, you're a piece of shit, stop what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if my dick and ball songs are, the thing that you should really be worrying about right now. But
yeah, you're emailing a stranger from the internet threatening them. You've got other problems going on, dude.
Yeah. And I'm like, everybody has a right to not like it or to be like, I don't like AI music. I don't like AI where it's going. That's fine. I never intended to have AI be part of any of this. It was just kind of like the cherry on top to what I was already doing for years. But it's, I mean, I get both sides, but I'm just having so much fun with it. And it seems so silly, and I can't imagine it's hurting anybody, as far as like their careers, because who was going to write these songs? You know,
There's some poor kid out there wanted to write the song about gluing his balls to his butthole, and you ruined his life.
and I ruined it. I ruined his whole life. Like, yeah, I see people who are like, should I just stop playing music now? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. Because I'm like,
well,
this is like, if you heard my song and you questioned your whole life about this passion for music that you have, then you probably shouldn't have picked it up in the first place. And I'm like, I still play music every day. I'm more inspired. I'm writing every day. It's just,
yeah,
it's just funny. The different reactions, like I see all sides of it, and it's interesting.
It's funny. I'm going to go down a self-indulgent tangent here, but it won't take more than a minute. When I first moved to New York and I first quit my old corporate job to be in radio and broadcasting and interviewer, media, whatever, my parents are like, we know people in New York and show business. We'll introduce you. I'm Canadian. Yeah. My parents didn't know anybody, but my mom's friend from high school, her brother was Rick Moranis. So my parents somehow arranged a call for me to be on the phone with Rick Moranis.
Wow.
Side note, Rick Moranis used to work as a host at a radio station where I was on at the time in Canada.
That's awesome.
So the first thing he does when I'm like, hey, tell me about your career. I don't even know what I'm doing on the phone with Rick Moranis.
Yeah, right.
He's like, you shouldn't be in radio. You shouldn't be in show business. I'm like, Rick, with all due respect, I just met you. Like, I'm passionate about this stuff. Like, I want to talk to you about it, but I'm not going to be talked out of this. And then he's like, aha, you passed the test. He's like, if some schmuck can talk you out of being an artist, then it was never for you. And I'm like,
wow.
Well, and he said schmuck and he sounded like Rick Moranis. And
yeah, that's so cool.
It's a tangent, but the idea is if some stranger can convince you to stop art making or whatever it is you're doing, whether it's writer, painter, musician, I'm with you. It's not for you. This was not for you.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is funny. It's like there's some people that will message me or be like, is this really where we want to go with creativity? And I'm like, I like that you think that I have any say in where creativity in general goes. I'm like, that's like a huge, like, am I like destroying the foundation of creativity by this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, definitely not. But I'm like, I love doing this. It's just an outlet for me to have like fun. It's just, there are some people who take it to heart and they, you're a thief, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, all right.
No, it's wild. There's a deeper thing there, but no, at the end of the day, the question is it a zero-sum game? If you become successful, if people like what you're doing, does it somehow hurt other people? I don't think so. I think there's a room for more than one artist out there. I'm no mathematician, but okay. Song you're most proud of, the composition right now that you're most proud of.
I really like the chorus of the Raina song. That's dusting off this old butthole. I really love that chorus, and I guess as a whole, you look like you could use a f***ing lamp.
You look like you could use a f***ing lamp. You look like you could use a f***ing lamp. Take the shade, take the ball.
Well, I didn't really get that one. Why would someone need to use a lamp?
Because that was another album cover from like 5-6 years ago. It's literally just a photo of a guy. I think it's from an old like porno mag. He's literally just handing this girl a lamp. And I just wrote the most literal lyrics. Like, here, you look like you could use a lamp.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And it's just the way he was losing his mind on the track always makes me laugh.
All right. Family, friends, reactions. Like what are your family and friends saying when they hear this stuff? Do they expect it from you, or have you scandalized your community?
No, I don't think any of my friends are surprised by it. Like my wife, she's like, yeah, that's what you do. You're always making dumb stuff. And then it got to a point where like my parents started hearing it, and that's when I was like, man. Like, but my dad had texted me and he goes, it's funny shit. And mom's laughing too. And I was like, okay, I'm still not stoked that you know about it, but at least you don't hate it. And all my coworkers have known about the account basically since I've like started it.
Are you making decent money from this? Like, I'm looking at your Spotify here. On one of these tracks, you got over 1 million plays. Like, I imagine
I'm waiting for something to come in. I don't.
checks in the
I don't know
mail.
I know, right? I make my money just usually based on merch and like commissions, like art commissions and stuff like that. As far as the streaming goes, I got like some money from it, but not like this life-changing amount. It's like I still have a job. I still, you know.
Would you ever consider touring where you like come up with music videos and you're just sitting there like because I feel like that's all that DJing is. It's some schmuck on a laptop with music he already wrote pretending like he's playing it live. Like I get what you're trying to do, dude, but maybe you're an artist, but when you program that music into your laptop, like you're not doing that on the fly. You did that at home. You're just standing there and hosting the party. I feel like you could have a similar kind of concert.
Exactly. And that's actually in the work. Something
Good.
like that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much I'm supposed to say about it or not supposed to say about it, but something like that is in the works, and it's all like live musicians. I mean that's about it really. It's just picking the right amount of songs, I guess maybe coming up with enough to fill a show. But yeah, and at home too. Like I've been, recording drums to some of the songs and bass and guitar. I've been like trying to see what I can do, to humanize the songs more too.
When we come back, we'll talk future projects. We're here with Glenn Robinson, the founder of Obscurest Vinyl. They are the greatest records you've probably never heard, although I'm hoping some people after today will check you out. We'll be back with more of Glenn in a minute. The man, the legend, the glue owner, Glenn Robinson is here.
All right.
Of Obscurest Vinyl. Let's jump right into this. We were talking future projects before I took a quick break there. What is on the go for you? I'm so glad to see you being recognized for this stuff, because this stuff there's something deeply creative about it. And honestly, the fact that you wrote the lyrics yourself, like, I'm glad a computer's not that funny yet.
Well, yeah, because I see so many people like saying, "Oh man, AI generated this." I was like, "Yeah, the music," but I'm like, "Don't." I mean, I almost want to be like, you want to get credit for the work that you do, like it's. And once there's a whiff of like AI in there, it's hard to convince people that you're actually doing something. So yeah, that's been like the biggest thing where I'm like, I feel like I'm always on the defense. I'm like, well, I'm a real musician. I'm a real songwriter. I'm a real designer. It's just this one thing I use AI for.
I love the long song titles too. Like this show is called This Is Going Well, I think, with David Cooper.
Yeah. It's a great name.
I think just like really long, silly names is the way to go for things. And that's something I appreciate about your songs.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I love the name of your show too. Like the I think. It's like, it's just another thought. You're just like, yeah, this is going well. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I didn't realize I came up with the name for my own show. I had this friend that I said, "Oh, do you have any suggestions for names?" And he's like, "You should call it This Is Going Well, I think." I'm like, "Okay, that's an amazing name. Sums up my anxious Jewish personality, right?" But he's like, many years ago, I was at a comedy club with this guy, and he hated me then. And I had just bombed on stage. And so I came up to the bar afterward, and I was just like talking at him. And I was like in a bit of a tizzy, I was all freaked out because I had bombed, and I was just talking at this stranger about my set and the comedy club and his set and the audience and my ex-wife. And I was just like unloading on this guy. Yeah. And he didn't know or like me at the time. Now he's my friend. So he just looked at me and he told me he had the thought in his head, I don't have to be here for this. He just walks away as I'm talking to him. Wow. So as he walks away, I say, "This is going well, I think."
Oh, wow.
And he's like, "It's the first time I ever thought you were actually funny." Now he's like, he helps me with comedy writing. He's one of my great friends. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So he told me this, and I didn't remember this story. And so, you know what? Let's get back to you.
Yeah.
The response online, like when I read the Reddit posts, when I see the Twitter posts, when I see your stuff on social media, people love it.
Yeah.
What kinds of response? I know we talked earlier about people reaching out to you about, is this art? Should you be doing this?
Yeah. Which, whatever. Someone doesn't think it's art. I mean, what are you going to do? I don't care.
Exactly. That's the perfect answer. But what about the fans who love it? What are they saying to you?
Surprisingly, I get a lot of messages where people are like, this is helping with my depression. This is like, my dad is sick. This is the first time I've seen him laugh in a long time. Just a lot of stuff like that, surprisingly, where I'm like, wow, I wasn't ready for that. But yeah, I mean, there's so many people who add like their own, background stories on the posts and stuff. They comment, like, oh, this song was my grandparents' wedding song, or they give their own like little backstory on the artist. And a lot of people are really funny. It's just cool to have like that kind of open, anybody can put their own twist on like whatever artist or record is out there, and it's cool.
Can you imagine these people reaching out and saying, oh, my father's sick, dying, hasn't laughed in a long time, and your music really connected with me? That's an amazing moment when that happens, isn't it?
It kind of like, I mean, it's awesome, but yeah, it definitely like took me back. I was like, oh, geez. I was like, I'm just sitting here writing like dick and ball jokes. And I'm not really aware of like the ripple effect of where it's going. But it's no, it's cool. It's fun. I'm glad like a lot of people like it, and I don't expect everybody to like it. I mean, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
It's so fun. I don't see myself wanting to stop. Even long after people are over it, I'll probably still be doing it.
I don't know, man. It sounds like you got some interesting projects on the go. People might not be over this stuff so quickly. It's funny because anyone can do it. I mean, the tools to write these AI songs are out there.
For sure. Yep.
But your stuff, I think, it's really rising above the cruft. And I think it's that mix of, and I think that's how AI is used best. Sorry, I should say what the thing is before I start talking about how it's used best. When it's a mix of kind of the power of the creator, that they are providing creative steering, creative vision. In your case, lyrics. I've read, although you haven't said it to me, you've added some musical tracks and stuff that are actually composed by you to augment or to really clean it up. I think that's how these tools are used best. It's like, hey, computer, do something for me, but I add that human touch to it.
Yeah, because I mean, even like with my day job, like as a graphic designer, you open Photoshop, you can't even click anything without an AI prompt coming up. Like it's not going anywhere, and you got to look at it as a tool and something you can use to make your life easier. You don't use it as a crutch, but you use it, to get rid of some of the, the more mundane parts of, your jobs, more specifically in design than music. But it's not going anywhere, and you just got to look at it like this is another tool.
Yeah. What
can I do with it? This can open me up to other things that I would have never had time to make or design. And now it's like I'm taking these songs and I'm like, I'm going to add my own drum parts to them. I'm going to add my own bass tracks to them. I'm going to add my own guitar. Like, it's fun. It's like, it's inspiring, even though it is like initially a computer just kind of spitting it out at you.
I promise I won't tell this to your employer. What would it take for you to quit your day job and become an artist full time? Is that something you even want to do, or is this something you'd like to?
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. As I'm outside,
As someone who's done it, it's not all roses. Okay.
No, I wouldn't imagine it to be.
It's it's an uphill battle.
I just think maintaining consistency with like money, like if I could make around what I make in a week at my job consistently for a while, then yeah, maybe. But I'm like, that risk is like too much for me sometimes. Like,
you got a wife and a kids and family and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, I'm like, there's too much going on where I can't just like drop everything because I glued my balls to my butthole, got a bunch of points, but it's definitely showed me like, all right, there is something here. There is something, hopefully this can go further. A lot of people seem to be liking it. Can anything more come out of this? And I think that's kind of what I'm exploring. Like, me and my buddy Joe turned it into a radio station where some of the songs are featured on there, and it's a fake radio station. Like, it's just nonsense. It's all these like stupid characters, and I think it's just all about taking it somewhere else. Like, just keep going with it, see what happens.
Look, I quit my job to be a full-time creative. Yeah, I would love to see that in you. I mean, I
would love it.
I think it can happen.
I would love for it to happen in any way, whether that's like freelance designing for people, which I do, but not enough, to keep it moving. But yeah, I mean, right now everything's pretty good, but it's only been about like 4 months, 3 months maybe since it all kind of blew up. But it's it's so much fun. I love where everything's going. I love that people like it. And I don't know if I mentioned there is an actual vinyl record in the works.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I honestly, that it's just me having to design the art, and then I can send it off.
Well, get on that, man. Jesus.
I know. I try every day. I'm like, I'm going to do it. And then, a bunch of shit happens and I don't get around to it.
You end up talking to some schmuck like me for 30 minutes and then it doesn't get done. Yeah.
This is great. I'm outside. I'm not in the cubicle.
I just think you should enjoy it now, because I think a lot of people are going to say AI can never be as creative as a human. My position is yet. I think we're in this golden age of like, you're still able to tell that finesse, that human touch.
Yes.
But I think I don't know how long it'll be, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. Like, you'll turn on your TV and an AI generated TV show will be just as good as Game of Thrones. And not only that, you won't be able to tell the difference.
I know that stuff is crazy to me. It's like, you don't really want that to happen, but at the same time, it's like, it's a lot of fun to make it.
Yeah.
It's like this weird thing. It's like, no, I don't want to turn on my TV and just see a bunch of AI crap. I want to see things that people have made. But personally, this is fun. To like mess around with. And I guess that's like, we're in like the wild west of AI, and it's crazy. I mean, like 5 months ago, I wouldn't even. If anybody asked me about AI, I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Glenn, I've loved talking to you. Thanks for coming on my show. I really do appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Check out Obscurest Vinyl. I'm about to listen to it while I edit this show. Glenn Robinson is the man's name. Glenn, again, I'm in the presence of music royalty. I don't even know what to say. I'm humbled by your appearance on this show.
Oh, yes. Yes, this is, I am royalty.
The answer is yes. Not sure what the question is, but the answer is yes.
Oh my God. That's funny.
Up next, adults and their toys. And no, I'm not talking about sex toys. I'm talking about children's toys for adults. There's an article in the Post that says that grown-ups have surpassed preschoolers as the biggest toy consumers. We'll talk to a toy influencer about just that. We are here to talk adult toys. That doesn't sound right. We're here to talk toys for adults to play with. Still sounds like sex toys. Adults who like toys that are intended for children but can be purchased by adults too. Much better. That's what we're going to talk. A group that tracks consumer trends has described 18 years and up as, quote, the most important age group for the toy industry. Another survey showed 43% of adults purchased a toy for themselves in the past year. I am here with toy influencer, podcaster who goes by Geek Dad Life. His name is Jay Glatfelter. Did I get it all right, Jay?
You did it. You did it so well.
Wow.
So well.
First take. Okay. First of all, what are kidults? I love this. What is it? Acronym? No. Portmanteau?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah. It's funny. Toy collectors, it's kind of a mixed bag on who likes it, who hates it. I think it's fun. Whatever.
Try calling a Star Trek fan a Trekkie. They will lose it. It's a Trekker.
Absolutely.
It's a Trekker.
I've watched both Trekkies movies, and I have heard the arguments. I have. It's not that bad, I guess. Just some people like really push back on the kidult thing, but I don't mind it, because it's kind of like everybody has their hobbies, right? You love trains growing up, you love baseball growing up, you love whatever growing up, and then when you're older, it's just fun to kind of relive those things that you grew up with, and I think that's what action figure collecting is for a lot of people, or those people that are kind of mentioned in that article. It's a means to kind of relive the glory days, or to kind of recapture a bit of that joy you had as a child. Playing with He-Man action figures, now you get cool, super detailed, almost art piece versions of those characters you can kind of pose and put on a shelf, and it looks cool.
So, but there's the cliche of like, oh, the man who's only ever lived in his small town goes and travels the world, and then he comes back to the small town, and it's all the same, but he's changed. Don't you find when you approach, like if I approach Legos, my memory of Lego is very fond, but now when I see them, I'm like, well, is the magic lost, or is there a way to keep the magic going?
I feel like I have at least a unique angle or perspective into this, in that I am a father as well. And so like Lego for me, the joy is like, okay, getting to kind of relive it with my son building Lego sets, and but even before I had kids, I was still buying and building Lego sets because it's a fun way to pass the time, right? Like for some people, it's therapeutic in a way. So it depends, I think, on like who you are, like how your personality profile fits, and kind of what you do that you enjoy time. Like what's one of your hobbies? Is it doing this podcast, or like
Sure,
what's a
yeah.
hobby for you?
I'm big on music. I used to be
Okay.
a software engineer before I
Okay.
decided that, according to my mother, I hate money and decided to give media a try full time. So I will actually code radio podcasting. That used to be my hobby. I was passionate
Hmm.
about it enough to
Yeah.
do it full time. And coding was my job. Now I like write code for fun, like little open source codey kind of things as a
Yeah.
hobby. So
Right.
I
And
got
there's
hobbies. I got hobbies.
That's what I'm saying. So I think it's like maybe like coding, like just kind of getting in the weeds like that. Maybe it's just like it's relaxing, or it is something. It kind of unlocks something for you creatively, right? Like I've played music, and I still am in a band, even though it's like it's a dad band. Like that's not cool. Like I'm not cool
I
anymore.
disagree. I think when you really are passionate about a hobby and you do it with others and you don't care whether you suck or not, but
Right?
you
Yeah.
do it
But
because you love it, I actually think that's awesome.
no, and that's great. But like from an outsider perspective, you're like, really, you're still in a band? I don't know. That's kind of like so. I do think, and toy collecting is a similar thing, where it's just like from an outsider perspective, it's like I don't get it. I don't understand what it is there. But I think for a lot of us people that collect, either I collect vintage stuff. I collect stuff that I grew up with, like old Star Wars toys, old, Ghostbusters toys, whatever. But then I also like when a company currently makes a new upgraded kind of version of that thing, because it's neat. It's kind of seeing the progress and kind of almost fulfilling maybe what you saw in your head as a kid as an adult, and it just kind of unlocks a lot of fun things that it's just an enjoyable hobby.
I get it. And the technology's gotten way better. I
Yeah.
saw a viral post about a product offered by Lego, and it was the set of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I wanted to buy it, but I can just picture my girlfriend saying, "We don't need more clutter." I might get it, though. I might get it.
Right, because and that's just it. It's that we get to exist on this planet for what amounts to like 10 minutes. Like, do something that kind of brings you joy. And like, if buying a Seinfeld Lego set brings you joy, because one, it's like Seinfeld, maybe it's a show you love, and then two, it's the act of like building again and just kind of seeing how that all unfolds. That's really enjoyable. And then once you're finished, you have this cool thing that'll sit on a shelf, and you'll look back to it and remember the show that you love. You remember the act of building the thing, and that was fun. And it kind of brings back good memories. And I think that's the thing us toy collectors kind of chase. It's chasing that feeling, which is nice.
I see an analog here to like photos. You take a photo of your vacation,
Yeah.
you have a photo of a friend, a loved one on the wall. It's like a memory.
Yeah.
For you, that figure or figurine has that same kind of vibe.
Absolutely. Right. And like to me, I'm in my work office, not my home office, but being in my home office surrounded by all of those things, like it's an inspiring thing. Like it's kind of get for people that are creative or like try to be creative, like it depends on who you are. But for me, like it stimulates my creativity because I go back to being a kid and making my own stories with Ninja Turtle action figures or whatever. And just kind of being around it unlocks those memories and almost kind of unlocks my creative brain to, go and make things, which is fun.
Have companies like Mattel, Hasbro, I don't know, all the big ones, have they started marketing towards
Oh, yeah.
adults? Like, what would that
Absolutely.
even look like? I haven't seen those ads. Or maybe I have. Maybe that Seinfeld Lego set was like intentionally
Absolutely.
viral.
Listen, the algorithm knows. The algorithm knows what you want, and it'll put it in front of you.
Yeah.
But like Mattel and Hasbro, they've absolutely been catering to the adult collector. Like Mattel has their own website that is just for collectors. It's Creations or Mattel Creations or creations.mattel.com. And they make things just for they make Barbie dolls that are just for Barbie doll collectors. They make Hot Wheels that are just for, and they're like really premium rubber wheels, all that kind of stuff, or action figures that are just for collectors. And same for Hasbro. It's called Hasbro Pulse, and it's just collector level, action figures that you don't even find on a Target shelf. It's made just for toy collectors.
I imagine these things aren't cheap. Is this an expensive
No.
hobby?
It's an expensive hobby. I think in that article that I was featured in, I put like $2,400 a year. It's probably more than that when you factor
You were
it all
worried
in.
your wife was going to read it, and so you.
Wife, family, like my wife's family, they get the post every single day. because they're in Long Island, and I was just like, 2,400. Maybe it's a little conservative, but that's what I feel good with putting out there in the world.
Wow, I love it. The fib you just told about the $2,400, because I feel like there's something in that, and it's societal perceptions, stigmas.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there are those that would judge, grow up.
No, well, I don't know if you saw the Twitter post, like the New York Post Twitter posts for that article.
Yeah.
And it's Twitter, so or X or whatever. And like, oh my God, the comments to that article were just like, grow up. Oh, I left my toys when I became a girl, whatever, all that kind of crap. And there definitely still is a stigma. I think I carry that stigma myself of being a father, having responsibilities, having bills to pay, and not feeling shame so much as just knowing that there's no logical reason to spend money on action figures, right? There's nothing.
Yeah, but why anything, Jay? Why anything?
And that's it. That's it, right? And so I think it's when we become adults, we have this line that we draw in the sand of just like, well, it needs to be practical because we're in service to whatever responsibilities we have. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, I don't know. We're all going to die one day. Like, let's enjoy the time while we're here. And it's oscillating between enjoying the time that we have, but also being practical and making sure that we hold to our responsibilities. And toy collecting definitely falls on the non-practical. No, there's no reason you can't eat it. You can't, there's nothing that services it other than just bringing joy to yourself. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think that's why we maybe ourselves as toy collectors, or even the outside perception is, well, why would you do that? But to me, it's just like, well, why would you buy, if you like sports, why would you buy sports jerseys and sports memorabilia and stuff like that? If you like cars, you don't need a, Porsche 911.
Okay, but one Porsche 911 is like a much more expensive,
exactly,
but also much more accepted hobby.
Exactly, right? Just like, oh, but if you have driving up with a Porsche 911, you're like, oh, nice car. But it's like, it's totally impractical. You can get an old used Prius for like $4,000. It'll do the same thing. It'll get you from point A to point B, So we all have these things. But I do think the perception of the toys and action figures is not as accepted as dropping $100-something-thousand on a car that does the same thing as a $5,000 car.
Well, I hope you're not spending $100,000 on a Lego set.
No, hell no. My hobby, even whatever the budget is, whether it's 2,400 or maybe a smidge more, significantly less than other hobbies that are out there. There are so many hobbies that are way more expensive. And in general, like I'm thankful for my wife and a lot of us that have spouses that support us in these endeavors. There are way more expensive hobbies. Golf, like I could give a whole list of hobbies that are absolutely bank breakers worse than action figure collecting.
Jay, thanks for going over this stuff with me. Are you a kidult? Are you an adult children's toy collector? Whatever you are, I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it as well. I love the conversation.
Jay Glatfelter, he's a toy influencer, a podcaster, and you can look him up under geek.dad.life. Up next, we'll hear from Tony 5 from Bulgaria. We'll get the Bulgarian update from our foreign correspondent, all the news from Bulgaria that you wanted to know, and maybe some things you didn't. Live from Sofia, Bulgaria, it's our Bulgarian foreign correspondent, Tony 5, to give us all the latest news that's important in your life having to do with Bulgaria, which the topics are numerous, I'm sure. Tony, welcome to the show.
David, it's been an amazing day. I am here in Sofia, Bulgaria, a place that I never believed existed because it sounds like a woman's name. But like many places in the world, Elizabeth, Canada, Betty Davis, Washington, D.C., and one that we all know it, David, Miranda in Belgium. It is Sofia, and I'm here.
You're there?
I'm here, yeah. I mean, Bulgarians statistically are very ugly, but David, my goodness, they are very, very attractive. Very, very attractive. And the women are too.
Wow. What is it like in Bulgaria? Does it feel safe? Like I have no reference point for Bulgaria. I guess as far east as I've been is Prague. Does it compare there? I don't even know. And for people who haven't been to Prague, what's it like?
So, I mean, Bulgaria is a former communist country. Now, I'm going to give you a fascinating fact. Plovdiv, which is the second big city in Bulgaria, probably about an hour, 2 hours away from me here, is the oldest city in Europe, David.
Wow. Like,
Now, not many people would know that.
like the people are old or the buildings are old?
Everything's old. Their Wi-Fi, they've only got the iPhone 1, I believe, still.
Wow.
And 8-track radios. And Justin Bieber's still very, very popular.
So hot right now. Baby, baby, please. Or is that
Yep.
baby, no, baby. There's something with baby in there for sure.
Baby, baby, baby. Oh, night, baby all night.
Baby,
it was one of his
yeah.
more recent pedophilic tracks.
Absolutely. Okay, so what are you doing there? Why are you in Bulgaria?
Why not, David? That is the real question you should ask yourself. Why not? Why not Bulgaria? Why not Sofia? It's beautiful here. I mean, it is very, it's very old, very communist, very grey, very brutalesque. But the main street, I'm not very far from the main strip in Sofia, and they've got all the normal shops, the H&Ms. I've visited the traditional Bulgarian McDonald's earlier on. Very good Bulgarian Big Mac, which is called a Big Mac.
Yep.
Here, which was really good. And then went to a Bulgarian KFC, as I normally do a tour. And David, I'm going to tell you something that I tried in Bulgaria. You won't believe it. Are you ready, listener?
I'm so ready.
I tried bubble tea.
Oh, you had to go all the way to Bulgaria to try bubble tea? Did you like it?
So this is my I'm infamously well-traveled. So bubble tea always looked disgusting because it was milk-based with tapioca. Now, the combination of tapioca and milk just made me vomit. But someone told me you can get a fruit-based tea or a juice-based bubble tea with these little things that burst in your mouth.
Yeah, the tapioca balls. Don't they burst in your mouth or no?
You can get fruit-based balls that burst in your mouth, not tapioca. They're like, I don't know, mango flavor and apple flavor and all sorts of flavors. Wow. What would be your favorite flavor, David?
I don't like boba or bubble tea. Call me racist against the Taiwanese, but it's just not for me. It's not my favorite drink. I've never liked it.
So I had a mango fruit-based sort of base tea with mango balls in it, and it was quite simply one of the most amazing drinks I've ever had.
Mango balls, baby. You can't go wrong.
Mango balls, yeah, that's going to be my new Tinder name.
Any exciting things have happened in Sofia, or are you just kind of hanging out in your hotel and doing whatever it is the hell you're doing that you don't seem to be answering my question about?
No, last night I was walking down the main strip and I got sort of enticed to a very dodgy Bulgarian mafia strip bar. Looked like I would have got stabbed, didn't, and didn't have to pay to get out either, but that was quite fun. Met a few Bulgarians, been good fun, going to a Museum of Illusions tomorrow when I've got some time off, which will be nice.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were a virgin.
Yeah. Museum of Illusions tomorrow. Yeah, it'll be nice. And then I might visit a ruin somewhere. Not an architectural ruin, just something that's been torn down
just
recently.
A bunch of rubbish on the street.
Yeah, to build a Starbucks. It's a lovely pattern. I don't know whether you can hear, but if you listen very quietly, listener, you will hear a Bulgarian pigeon.
Oh, and they differ from
That's right.
North American, British, whatever pigeons how?
Yeah, just in terms of what they speak like, what they eat, what they wear, how they sort of waddle along. Quick question for you, David.
Yeah.
Why do pigeons' heads bobble like that?
Like,
do you know?
Bobble? I don't know. You can watch videos of people kind of holding them and their heads don't move or they bobble or whatever. I don't know the science behind bird bobbling, but I should look it up. Birdbobblers.com.
Why don't you ask your friend Carmi Levy, who knows everything?
Okay, I'll ask my friend Carmi Levy, who knows everything.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Carmi Levy told me this the other day, Tony. Carmi Levy told me that the other day, Tony. Whatever.
Well, it would be Dan Riskin is the science guy, but the point's well taken.
Yeah, one of them.
What's the food like in Bulgaria?
Very bland, unfortunately. Pizza has come out kind of lukewarm. They're very meat-based here. I've had a couple of good meals. They do gyros, which is like kind of shawarma.
Yeah, it's like a Greek meat pita wrap thing.
Yeah, I mean, pita far's a bit strong, but it's nice. It's just pita bread. Do you think that's where pita far comes from? Pita bread?
Yes, that's what it means. Someone who eats too much pita bread.
Yeah. Anyway, so what else did I have? They did like sort of very, very meat based, not very spicy, very bland, like most of the Balkan areas, meaty. Czech Republic's like, but I must say that the quality of the female apparel and body structure is incredible here.
A lot of beautiful people walking around, huh?
Very beautiful people. I want to say the men don't really look after themselves, but somehow manage to sort of bag themselves some stunning looking women who are very, very impoverished. So I'm in my element here.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you on Tinder? What's Bulgaria Tinder like?
Pinder, it's called, David. Yeah. So, I mean, in all fairness, no, I'm not. I haven't been on that sort of Bulgarian Tinder, but just walking around, I think I might have seen 3 people of color in the 48 hours I've been here. One of them was definitely just sunburned, and the other one was last night. So I can't confirm or deny.
So you're an exotic specimen over there. How are they treating you? Do they treat you like you're one of them, or are they a little like,
very smiley, very happy. They ask me what I eat. 3 or 4 of them have touched me. One of them threw chicken bones at me last night, which I guess is a greeting. Lovely. I'm celebrated here, David. Celebrated.
Okay, and how long are you going to be in Bulgaria?
For 2 more days, David, unfortunately, which means I missed the big day, the Cooper Day, the day that we all know and love. Tomorrow, which is National Cooper Day.
Yes, it is my birthday. I am choosing to do absolutely nothing. My girlfriend's worried. She thinks I'm going to get depressed, but I'm like, I want to do nothing. I want to just hang out. I'm going to take the day off work. I'm not going to do any radio appearances. I'm just going to have a nothing day, and I'm looking forward to it. No pressure. No one's going to get on my case. I can do what I want, say what I want, be what I want. What's wrong with that? Do you ever do birthdays like that?
I like the way you said radio appearances, like there would be people out there waiting for you to come on. But okay.
Well, there's Jim Richards, but that's hardly. You're right. I was flexing, and I had nothing to flex.
You were flexing, and there was nothing to flex. No, it was. I tend to do that a lot. As I get older, I tend to enjoy my company a lot more. I tend to not want to do much. Like, I'm quite happy. I'm here on the balcony on the 4th floor. And as you pointed out earlier, there's a 5G aerial to my right-hand side, which I really like.
Mm-hmm. There's a cell phone antenna, for those who can't see Tony's video, next to his hotel room. So he's got the best reception in all of Bulgaria, I imagine.
I bet I have, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I could just try and plug myself into it. But yeah, it's wonderful here. Might go out a little bit later. It is very much late-night coffee culture here. So there's a lot of people that sit out on the main boulevard. People really go out here about 9, 10 o'clock at night and have their nights. Am I keeping you awake, David, as you yawn on the phone?
It's been a long day. This is like my 8th taping today, Tony. Jesus, man. No one can see me yawn. I did it on the sly. They couldn't hear me yawn. Just let me get away with it. Come on.
Isn't that a film? No one can hear you scream at space. No one can hear David yawn on the radio.
Tony, I love you. I hope will you call me on my birthday at least?
Of course I'll call you tomorrow, David. It's going to be a wonderful day for everyone. But I wish you from here, from Bulgaria to you, I wish you a very happy birthday. Or as they say in Bulgaria, happy birthday.
I knew you were going to do that. Tony, thank you as ever.
Bye-bye.
Dutch roll. Sounds delicious. Kind of sounds like Dutch Crunch, one of my favorite sandwich spreads. But no, it has nothing to do with sandwiches. It has to do with airplanes. A recent emergency situation on a Boeing 737 MAX, and yes, it always seems to be Boeing these days, resulted in a Dutch roll. We'll have pilot John Tory Jr. on in just a minute to go over Dutch rolls and everything about piloting. Well, just Dutch rolls. It's everything you wanted to know about pilots. We're here with a man who's been filming television pilots for years. We're going to talk how to make TV shows, how to pitch them, everything you wanted to know. I read that wrong. We're here to talk to an airplane pilot. It's your update from the skies with Toronto-based pilot John Tory Jr. John Tory Jr., welcome to the show. I appreciate you going over these stories with me.
Thanks. David, I was really worried actually because I've been told by so many people that I have a face for radio. And when you started talking about television, I didn't want to break your show.
Well, you've broken my computer screen just by your face coming through here. Okay. I love talking about Boeing because it's such a wonderful, example of what awful things can happen with unfettered capitalism, shareholders' interests over over passenger safety. It seems like one bad story after another. I don't know. I feel like maybe they even hired a crisis team to manage their PR, but when their planes just keep doing wacky stuff, causing accidents, in rare cases killing people, doors blowing off, engines falling off, the list is very long. Before we get into the most recent one, from your perspective, what is going on with Boeing? And would you get behind the wheel, the jostle, the joystick in the cockpit of one of these more recent planes that are getting such bad press?
Yeah, I'll start with one of the things you said in the middle. I would be surprised if they hadn't hired a crisis team, both to help them with the PR, but also to help them with the management, because I do think they have a management problem. I don't think it's as bad as people characterize it to be. For sure, there have been some bad accidents of late, and some of them have resulted in some fatalities, and others have just been scary to think about. But and there's no real simple way to put this without sounding heartless, but these things these things can happen when you're working in an environment where you're using machinery. And so as long as Boeing is now taking a look at where their own gaps may have been and getting back to it and trying to figure things out, and solve the problems both of quality manufacturing, but also a follow-up and perhaps whatever inspections were due later, they are one of two. Let's not forget this, one of two companies in the world that make large airplanes. And others have tried to enter that space, and there just doesn't seem to be room for another one. Now, that notwithstanding, Boeing's order backlog is in the thousands of airplanes. So when you ask, would I get behind their planes? Yes, I would. I would ride in one as a passenger. I would fly one as a pilot. And I would encourage anyone to do the same if they were flying for a reputable airline that does their maintenance in a reputable way. And this is saying nothing about the airlines that were involved in the various challenges of late, but more so just to say, I think Boeing builds good airplanes, and if it's a good airline operator, they're probably flown by well-trained, capable pilots, and they're worked on by well-trained and capable maintenance people. So I have no issues with them writ large, but I do hope that, and I get the sense they are truly taking the various issues they've had recently seriously. And I think the one that we're going to talk about today, which deals with Dutch roll.
Well, I've always heard of Dutch crunch, which is a delicious bread to have your sandwich on, but now I'm hearing about Dutch roll. Is this something that they're serving as a dish on these planes, or what?
That's right. No, yeah, that's right. It's just a cream-filled roll, and it gets served up, and you eat them. No, a Dutch roll is a phenomenon. When you think about how an airplane flies, it flies in three axes. One is vertical, one is lateral in the sense of the way the airplane rolls like a boat when it turns, and then the other, or like a bicycle, and the other is directional, which is where there's a rudder at the back of the airplane, and it can literally go left or right, and it will make the airplane pivot to the left or the right. But kind of like a weather vane does, it spins around without rolling to one way or the other. So almost like a car turns. And it's the relationship between the directional, so that left, right, and the roll force that causes Dutch roll. So it's a very, very normal phenomenon that most airplanes today use a form of technology to deal with, whether it's design technology in terms of how the airplane's physically designed, and slower airplanes use more of that. So they might have a very small tab on a wing or on a rudder that causes a bit of interference, and it just reduces the ability of that effective to the difference between lift and drag to cause the Dutch roll. Or in the case of a larger airliner, there's a computer program that will cause the rudder to make very, very slight adjustments. Like you're talking millimeters of adjustment constantly as the airplane flies. And that's called a yaw damper. And that's the primary way that we combat a Dutch roll or Dutch yaw in an airplane. And I'll just add this: it's more pronounced, the Dutch yaw, Dutch roll, when the airplane's wings are swept back. So instead of sticking straight out from the side of the airplane, they sweep back at an angle from the aircraft. And that allows the airplane to fly much faster than it would in a straight wing design, but it also does make the airplane more vulnerable to Dutch roll.
So what happened on this Southwest flight? I think it was flight 746. It was back at the end of May. I don't think anyone was hurt, but would it have been a scary thing to experience as a passenger? And what happened up in the air?
Probably uncomfortable more than scary. So what happens is this: when whatever you're doing to combat Dutch roll stops doing its thing, you'll have a very, very slight variation in how the airplane is sitting in the sky. It won't even be noticeable, not even to flight crew. And maybe the left wing will drop down slightly. This could literally be on the order of centimeters. But as a result of that, it starts producing slightly less or more lift than its counterpart, which will then cause the airplane to want to return to equilibrium. But then out of that, they'll have a slight millimeter offset of the directional, that left-right. And so then the airplane may yaw slightly. And you might feel it. That's the movement you feel kind of in your hips. As this goes on, it builds and builds and builds. And then that movement gets more pronounced. And if you can think about it, the nose of the airplane will be making a figure eight, while essentially remaining at the same altitude as it's constantly trying to return to equilibrium. So there would become a point where, as a passenger, this would have been both noticeable and scary. I don't know, maybe more puzzling. And I'm sure to some people it would be scary because you'd be feeling this repetitive sensation of going left, right, while also slightly going up, down until it was restored. Is there a potential for serious injury? If you have a crew who sits there and does absolutely nothing about it, it will keep on getting worse. It's a condition that aggravates itself. But of course, in this case, you don't have a flight crew that did nothing. They did take control of the aircraft. They managed to rectify. One of the simple ways to get out of Dutch roll is literally just to take the air. You can try to combat it yourself, but the human brain is too slow. When you combine the human brain response time with the mechanical delay for when you put certain inputs in, and so if you're trying to keep flying straight and combat it, you're probably not going to be fast enough, but you can make it a bit better. You can make it less aggravated. One of the easier things to do is, frankly, just to do a 360-degree turn. If you enter a turn that you command in the airplane, you introduce the imbalance away from neutral flight, and then you can smooth it out. So I don't know exactly how they resolved it. Usually what you would start by doing is just turning off the yaw damper and turning it back on, or switching to another one. Most airliners have two or more. And we don't yet know the full report of how the crew resolved this, but it does sound like they landed the airplane safely, they deplaned everyone, and then that's when they noticed one of the components, one of the rudder control systems, had been damaged.
Got it. Do you think this seems relatively minor? I know there was damage. I know the plane was doing a bit of wonky stuff in the air, but it landed safely. No one was hurt. Do you think stories like this are getting elevated now when they have the word Boeing attached to them? Because the media really wants to... It seems like everyone's rooting against Boeing now for good reason because of corporate greed.
Media loves conflict, right? And so that's really, when you talk about what we cover, whether it's in long form media or short form, right down to social media, it's all about conflict, whether it evokes conflict in someone's mind or it makes someone feel conflicted about something, or whether there is a straight up conflict that is easy to cover on. And that's true of stories large and small. I think Boeing has more magnetism to it right now, but let's not forget that airplane accidents of all kinds have always received overly glamorous coverage from the media since the beginning of flying itself. And, if I was to tell you that most accidents, this technically was an airplane accident, which the definition is that, the airplane suffered damage and then it became, they use the word uncontrollable, but what they mean, what the classifiers, what they mean when they say that is not controllable as expected by the normal means. So if you have a flight control surface or system like a yaw damper that's damaged beyond serviceable capability as a result of normal flight, that's an accident. So you have an accident today, which is synonymous with crash, where everybody survived. And same with when the door plug came off the plane a few weeks ago, was an accident again, where everybody survived. And it's important to remember that in the majority of airplane accidents, everybody or the vast majority of people survive and are uninjured. So, but the coverage always skews towards things that people would find frightening to be a part of. And so I don't think it's Boeing in particular. I think people might be paying a bit more attention to it when they hear Boeing. But you're not seeing people turn around writ large and say, I'm not getting on Boeing. Remember, they're 50% of the airliners out there. And the 737 itself is the most common airline and most prolific airline ever produced. There's thousands of them in service, and you don't see people walking away from them. So I think it's a bit the entertainment and the wow factor of media coverage, and a bit the fact that Boeing just has had the last three such stories, which is not good for the traveling public and not good for them. But these things are getting paid attention to, and I think they'll get resolved.
Thanks for letting us know everything we needed to know about TV show pilots. I'm here with Toronto-based pilot John Tory Jr. John, thanks again. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, David. Have a great day.
June 26th is National Day of Joy. We're going to talk to a gerontologist about joy as we age, and also why many Americans are saying that their parent is their best friend. That is coming up next. We're here to talk a couple couple of things. One, the National Day of Joy, which is coming on the 26th, but also an interesting new finding that most Americans say that their parent is their best friend. I'm here with Sherri Snelling, a corporate gerontologist and author, host of Caregiving Club On Air podcast to discuss. Sherri, welcome.
Well, thank you, David. It's great to be on with you.
I could not agree more that it's great to be on with you. And of course, on June 27th, National Day of Despair. Just kidding. I don't know why I said that. I'll be celebrating. Actually, June 18th, tomorrow, is the National Day of Despair because it's my birthday. And
well, happy birthday.
I just like to get upset on my birthday. I don't know why I'm going off on this. Let's start here. What should we all be doing and what should we celebrate on the National Day of Joy?
You know, the National Day of Joy is actually, it comes from a survey that Comfort Keepers has done now for the last 6 years. And it really focuses our attention on how do we invest in our own happiness? You know, what are the activities? Who are the people that we get that surge of, you know, happy feelings from? And how do we make sure that we make that happen? Now, whether it happens on June 26th or just plan for it is really what's important.
Got it. Okay, let's get to the survey because I know we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, but I find this fascinating because I have friends who can't stand their parents. I have friends who it seems like it's their codependent best friend. They can't make a single move without that phone call first. Are you surprised that there is some findings that say that Americans say their parent is their best friend?
You know, actually, I wasn't surprised. I think that there is a lot of strength in having those, you know, intergenerational connections. And as you said, a lot of kids are like, oh, I don't want to wind up like my parents, or, I hope I'm not becoming my parent. But in reality, our parents can really not only help ground us, but it also gives us a sense of giving back. And I think that's really important for all of us to feel happier. You know, when we're doing things for ourselves, it feels really great. But when we do things for others, it also really increases our happiness factor as well.
Got it. So you mentioned Comfort Keepers. What is Comfort Keepers?
So Comfort Keepers is a company that's been around now for more than 25 years, and they provide services into the home to help care for older adults. And so whether it's some light housekeeping or companionship or just giving a break for a family caregiver, Comfort Keepers can come in and do all that. And I think the biggest thing is the social connection. You know, so many of our older adults live alone, and there's a sense of isolation and loneliness. And so when you can have someone come into the home, have a conversation, and even help out a little bit, it really gives that sense of being more connected to the world and not feeling like you're all alone.
Got it. So what inspired this research? What inspired the organization to actually survey the relationship between adults and their maybe more senior parents?
Well, I think because of the mission of Comfort Keepers, which is to, create more positivity around aging, show support for older adults and our older population, but also, again, getting older does not mean disease, decay, decline, which I know younger generations probably feel like it's all a downhill slide from there. But really, it can also be a sense of when you can find more happiness. There's other research out there that shows there's a U curve of happiness, and you're happy in your 20s when we're carefree and maybe don't have a lot of mortgages and other responsibilities. But then we take a real dive into our 40s and 50s where we're not quite as happy. And then it starts to go way up. And the peak moment of happiness, or where we find the top scores, if you will, in a lifetime, is in your late 70s and 80s. That is when you're actually the happiest. So we want to really bring those kinds of ideas that getting older can be something where you can find happiness, and it can be a very positive experience.
Why might that be that when we hit our late 70s, early 80s, that's our peak for happiness? I'm surprised to hear that.
Well, I think there's different scientists have different insights into this. And by the way, that study has been replicated now over like 250 studies done across the globe. So despite, countries and culture and race and language and all these other things, it still bears out that U curve of happiness. A lot of people think, well, maybe it's because you've survived. You've been through the wars. You can kind of congratulate yourself on, hey, I've made it. I've survived all this. The other thing is maybe it's a time of freedom. You don't have that need to kind of keep up with the Joneses anymore or whatever. You can kind of now choose your path of exactly what you want to do with the rest of your life. And so there's a lot of different, thoughts about it. But I think one of the things that most people wouldn't think of is it is a paradox, right? We think again that we get sadder and maybe more depressed as we get older. And actually the science shows the opposite. We actually get happier.
Got it. I love this. I mean, I've noticed, at least in my grandparents before they went, as they aged, they just said and did whatever they wanted. It didn't hurt anyone, but it was just so nice to see they didn't really care about being judged. It was like all of society's pressures weren't on their shoulders at that age because they'd been through it all, they'd experienced it all. And I just, yeah, it was wonderful to observe.
And isn't that a great lesson for all of us to not really worry so much about what other people are saying about us on social media or, maybe what our peers are thinking, and just live your life the way that you want to live your life and not worry about all the other stuff.
Yeah. I feel like as I get more comfortable in my own skin, I give less of a what about what people think about me, and I feel better. And this comes with age. In my 20s, I was high strung and anxious all the time. But getting back to the survey, why do we think that, so many adults consider parents to be their best friends now?
Well, again, I think there's a few reasons that we're seeing, at least, and that is that one, having a connection with an older adult, and particularly that family member, that parent, can give you a sense of resiliency because we learn more about them and then we learn more about ourselves. And so it grounds us in who we really are. And I think it gives us a certain type of strength. From their perspective, they still feel relevant. We're still asking for advice, or we still want to spend time with them. Whereas a lot of older adults feel like, hey, I'm being abandoned because my kids have all these other things going on. Now we're embracing them and bringing them into, the kind of activities that we want to do, whether that's going to a concert or a restaurant or even traveling with parents. We see so much more of that, and the survey bore that out. And I think it's just this sense of being together. The pandemic really brought a big spotlight on health vulnerabilities. And maybe that was part of why now we see, hey, we may not have forever with our parents. So let's spend the time now and let's learn about them. And then that makes me feel good because I've kind of got that person who has my back, who I know loves me and will be there to support me.
So the survey looked into activities that people might like to do or might like to try with their parents. I have only recently, let's say in the last 5 years, started really enjoying being friends with my parents. When I was younger, I was left, they were right. I was oil, they were water. But sometimes when they come to visit me in New York, they're just sitting there in their hotel. I'm like, what do I do with them? So I guess maybe the results from the survey can help me. What are some of the things that adults like to do with their little bit older parents?
Yeah, well, I mentioned one of the ones that I think was really kind of fun is attending concerts together.
What? I don't even like concerts.
Yeah. That was the parents taking the kids to the Rolling Stones concert, which I can't believe the Rolling Stones are still out there touring, but they are. I think Mick Jagger just turned 80 this year. Or going to a Taylor Swift, the kids taking parents to say, hey, let's go see Taylor Swift. So it's kind of fun to see, again, let's share what we love, with our parents or with our adult child. Certainly restaurants, and then a lot of travel. We're seeing an increase now in family travel. Certain companies like Disney Cruises have always been really good at this, right? And, kind of encouraging the whole family to come together. And now we're seeing a lot of different travel packages and travel incentives, if you will, to bring families together on different travel and to adapt because, obviously if you're older, you may not have the stamina or you may have certain needs as you travel. And a lot of travel places and destinations and hospitality are now looking at that and making it a lot more accessible and easy for older adults to travel with their families.
Yeah, my folks think they can do everything. They're in their mid-70s now. They'll come up with a whole itinerary, and then at about 4:00, they're like, we're going to take a quick nap. They'll be out. Yeah.
Now, we do need a little bit of extra rest as we get older.
I mean, I wish I could nap more. That would be really something. So when we look at these bonding experiences, how might this influence our parents' attitude of us? Is there any information there? Like, I don't know, as my relationship shifted, I feel like my parents have started to view me differently.
Well, I think certainly there is, what you said about, is it interesting, the finding of the best friends, 50% of older adults think that, or see their parent as their best friend. I think, again, I think there's a respect level that comes with, we look at our older parents and we realize what they've been through, and that maybe they can give us some wisdom and insights into getting older or going through life challenges. On the flip side, our parents are looking at us and respecting, wow, look at what my child, because we're always going to be children no matter how old we are in our parents' eyes, but look at what my child's been able to accomplish or what they're doing. I'm so proud of them. So there's this kind of mutual respect that happens. And also this positive attitude towards aging. That's what I love. I think that the adult children in the survey said, I really felt better about getting older as I watched my parents and their vitality, and they're energetic and they're thriving and they're happy. And that gives me a better feeling about getting older. So that's a really great finding, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, my grandfather was like 93, 94. He'd still go to the racetrack once a week. He was active. He was, And seeing my parents sort of age gracefully, I guess it does make it a little less scary. It kind of demystifies it, and you can see what the path is like, and it doesn't seem as bad as I guess your worst fear would be.
Well, and I think we're also seeing that, getting older, again, the myth of you have to sit in your Barca lounger watching Jeopardy shows as you get older is now, busted, right? We can continue, like you said, with your grandfather, you continue to go to the racetrack, something that you love. And again, maybe if it's a little bit harder to get around or you don't drive anymore, this is another way that Comfort Keepers can help an older adult achieve those dreams, even if their adult child isn't, maybe they live long distance or they're working. So now you kind of got this care team that can help your older parent still do the things they love to do.
Thanks for going over all this with me. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, it was really great to talk to you, David. Thank you.
Sherri Snelling, corporate gerontologist, author, and host of Caregiving Club On Air, a podcast. That is our show. Thank you for listening. I won't be here tomorrow. Wish me a happy birthday or not. I don't care. I'm not your mother. See you on Wednesday.